Alright. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We've got Dark in the top left side of the map, representing Talon Esports, up against Classic in the bottom right, representing... Oh, is he still on Twisted Minds, guys? Maybe someone can look that up for me. Either way, Classic in the bottom right side, Dark in the top left, Zerg vs Protoss semi-finals here of the KSL, number 69. That's right, guys. If there's any time Dark's going to power up, it's got to be the 69th iteration of the Korean StarCraft League. And we'll see what he can pull out. Now, I do think Dark has been kind of, I would say, relatively stationary in his ZvP for about 5 years. He hasn't really evolved much since 2020, but he just kind of had a toolkit, and he was really good at mixing up that range of builds, those Bane Busts, those Ling Floods, those Ravager Ling Queen Walks, the Nidus Queen Zergling All-In, the Chadray Annihilator, as I like to call it. You know, there's a lot of these builds he just kind of had on, let's say, a D6 for this matchup, you know, a six-sided dice. He'd roll that and go, okay, this is the build, let's do it, you know, and he'd sometimes instinctively figure out just ways to mix and match those builds to catch Protoss off guard. But I think with the Oracle regen, the energy recharge from the Nexus, he's struggled just because there's a bit less range, you know, a little bit more limitation what he can do with Lings coming in and denying the third, or Ling Floods early on, and it does make it, I think, a challenge for Dark at the moment to get on top of this matchup, especially for a player who, like I said, I felt he was still winning off of his talent, his micro, his ability to trick his opponents, you know, make it look like he's doing one thing and then go, okay, you've scouted that, and just immediately pivot to a different plan that the opponent wasn't ready for. I feel like that stuff he got by on whilst his builds hadn't really evolved in terms of, like, great instincts, great killer play. But if you're not evolving your build orders, you know, especially with the military on the horizon, is he going to be able to compete on this meta? Now, we know he's meant to have gone to the military early Feb, but apparently that was just a soft date. He's still awaiting his kind of final signing up and boot camp and all that stuff. So we do have Dark confirmed for Pigfest as well, which is nice to know. We'll have him playing that and hopefully playing another month or so of weeklies. He's been about to go to the military on the cusp of it for 5 years now, but changes of laws in Korea about how long you can delay military service, amongst other things, has allowed him to put it off. Now, Dark's been forced off the triangle base to this top right. I actually prefer this base personally, as of course on this base the Oracles can threaten the mineral line and then scoot into the main and kind of go between and threaten this rally point area between your bases up there. Stalker comes out nice and early, so it's single Adept into Stalker, guys. Stalker's going to start hitting the Overlord. Depth Shade should get cancelled. Classic could be kind of crazy to let that finish. Cancels at the last second. The Overlord does hide on the pillar. Now, this is where usually the Overlord will run away because you know the Oracle's coming, and that's what Classic's checking for. Notice his Stalker is on patrol because this is a directional blocker, this pillar. So you can see when he's at the top, there's a bit more Fog of War down here. If he stands there, the Overlord can escape before the Oracle arrives. It's not going to happen. Oh, damn, dude, did he just get a drone? I was not expecting another Shade to come in, but only 2 Zerglings. Dark plays very greedy, loses 2 drones for an Adept. Now, you might think, huge mistake, what an idiot. You'd be wrong. He skimped on Zerglings. A lot of players would have had 6 Zerglings by then, at least 4, probably 6 or 8. He only built 2, and then another 2 just now, so he's kind of squeezed more drones out early than he otherwise would. I think it's totally fine for Dark to lose a drone or 2, and I think the bigger concern would be a supply block, which doesn't happen, because look at that. 2 Overlords are popping out. His third hatchery is about to finish and give him another 6 supply up to 66. So Dark's macro is actually looking really clean in this game. He's also delayed his Spore Crawler in the main and his natural because he's gone instead for very quick 4 queens with a 5th queen almost out. So he's going to actually be very, very well defended. Now, Classic is a little passive sometimes with his Oracles. I would like to see him try to get in there with just a little more urgency to force a response. He has gone 3rd and 4th gas into Twilight Forge at 4.5 minutes. Looks like it will be a Blink Stalker follow-up most likely. Could be 3 base Tempest, but that's pretty rare. Oracle takes a lot of damage for a single drone. Nothing too crazy. But definitely, I think, a successful defense for Dark, who's going for a German taxi all-in. He's got a lair on the way, Overlord speed, up against a quick 4-gate Blink. The problem is he's forgot his Roach Horn. You're not just doing Ling Flood, are you? Guys, he's going to build a Baneling Nest. He's going to go pure Zergling Queen all-in. He's going to drop the Queens on the other side of the map. It's basically the Chadray Annihilator, but with drops instead of Nidus Worm. Not sure which one's better. He does manage to do it off a single gas for now. Second gas has just started mining on the natural. And I think these Oracles are... Is there any sign of what's going on? Maybe the low worker count on this third. I mean, that's a pretty low worker count. That might tip Classic off. He gets 4 drones. Very nicely done. He's got to realize he sees the Drop Lords. He has to do nothing but make units right now. Cannons are the most important thing, personally, I would think. Battery on the natural, battery on the 30 builds a gateway to kind of wall this off, which is excellent. So we can, you know, stop the Lings from getting surface area. Needs to make as many units as he can. Going up to 6 gates right now is Classic. I think Classic has got such a good setup for defending. But on the other hand, Dark is going to have an immense amount of Zerglings. Over 60 Zerglings, 7 Queens. But it's the fact that it's been foreshadowed, it's been seen ahead of time. And one has to question, though, no cannon? And nothing in the main as well. If Zerglings drop into that main, that could be a problem for him. Cannon is such a high damage unit this early for just 150 minerals. He's trying to focus on the mobile things. Link is not ready just yet. 2 sentries in the natural. The Queens are just going to drop across that gap. Oracles could fight that with the help of the battery, potentially. But battery's going to run out of juice pretty quickly. Oracles are in trouble. And, oh, you don't want to lose these Oracles. He uses energy recharge on the battery rather than the Oracles, which is not a good choice. The Stalker Sentry gets baited into the open. The Oracles are both going down. Keeping those Oracles in reserve to fight whenever the Zerglings are away from the Queens is essential. Now they're gone. That's going to be a big cost. That being said, Stalkers trying to hold. A few of them get surrounded. A lot of them go down. 3 Stalkers, 2 Sentries in the natural. You can warp in more units on the third maybe, but it's the lack of the Oracles that's the big mistake here for Classic. Classic botching his defense. You cannot afford to throw those Oracles away. And that's just going to be a nice cleansing of the third for Dark. Does drop a few more creep tumors. Stalkers come out. Lings are happy to get in there. Transfusers go down. Whenever the Lings get surface area, they could do very well. Dropping a juice outside the base there is the Overlords. You're going to have to try and pick up and get those Queens out of there, but it's a red hit point Overlord, so he gets in the yellow hit point Overlord. Bit of an easier one to protect. With creep outside your base, stuck on 2 base, Dark can now drone up and tech towards Hydras. Ling Queen all in, very good versus triple Oracle opening. This was only double Oracle. Gonna rebuild one of those Oracles now. Classic taking the other base as the creep is a bit more on the left side. I wouldn't mind him focusing that gateway down. Groove Spines and Evo Chamber on the way. Creep Tumors getting cancelled. I think he could have... I would have risked staying there as Dark. I think it was worth it. He got the creep there because then it's so hard for the Oracle to clean up the creep. And he could potentially have denied the gateway. He could have at least forced the Stalkers to blink back. Traded a few Zerglings for the creep denial and the gateway snipe. Goes back in for the gateway snipe now. It's going to go down if he commits, but he's a little wary of committing his Dark. Doesn't want to throw units away, and that's a good idea. 53 drones only. He's not got a big economy advantage, but that's because he's focusing on winning the game and winning the game soon. He's got both Hydra upgrades queued up. He's on 4 gases only now. So I think it's just 10 Hydras, and then you should probably go pure Zergling and just go win the game now as Dark. He's gone back to drones. Hard disagree on that decision. I think you're all in as Dark if you're staying this low on workers. If you stop to build 10 Hydras, you have to go attack with those 10 Hydras. And you can see now 5 more are building. So 15 Hydras mass Zergling will be very good. But when Archons kick in, Storms kick in, Zealots with +1 attack, those are all problems for Zerglings. So you want to get in there when the Zealot count's low, when there's no Archons, when there's no Storm. And he goes back to droning Dark. Not a great decision. He's deciding to just play a macro game, and whilst he has an army advantage, I think this gives up a chance to get an easy victory. And it's overly safe. 15 Hydras or 55 drones defensively is a bizarre decision. And it's one where I feel like we're not seeing as many sharp edges as we should. Dark is still favored massively. He's at double the army supply advantage. But if there was ever a time to not hedge your bets and to just go and push the Protoss while they're weak, it would be right now. You can see that window's closing. He knows about this. The Overseer keeps going through and seeing it. One has to question Dark's instincts to not continue committing to this attack. Even though he's going forward, he's been building 15 drones over the last 30 seconds, which means he won't have as many Lings and Hydras. Storm, seconds away from finishing, about 20 seconds. Can he buy time? Classic stasis trap in the back. 1 High Templar up the front, does get focused down. He's going to have to pull back. These cannons trying to hold on. Storm is not quite ready, and this is what's going to be it. I think he's going to break him. I think Dark should still get in it. Getting it just before Storm is crucial, and enough of an advantage off the early break that it does work out very well for him. Third base gets ransacked. Yes, the Storms come down, but Dark's already got this very forward kind of spread out position where his units are not really going to eat the big Storms because he's already on top of your units, you know. If the Zerg is trying to push into a position, that's when your Storms land. Once he already has position, it's a bit too far gone. One last Storm goes down, clips the Zerglings, damages the Hydras. That Classic, I think it all comes down to the Oracle usage with his defense and the lack of cannons. A single cannon on the natural would have been so good against those Queens, not to mention the fact that losing the oracles meant his stalkers got surrounded over here afterwards. And right now we're watching him micro, but he's dead. 2 base against 4 base, mass hydraling. Dark gets himself a kill. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously Dark won the game, and I know there's always going to be someone going, oh, why would you question Dark? Look, he won. Don't get me wrong, guys. It'd be pretty hard to throw from the advantage he had. He still attacked at the right time. So I like that. I mean, I think he attacked at the perfect time, right? But he didn't commit to it as hard as I would have liked to see. I actually would have liked to see him hit like 30 seconds faster with just 10 Hydras. I think 10 Hydras was perfect because then you know you're hitting before even the cannons come up. And I'll rewind the replay to check, but I think if he hits 30 seconds earlier, there's like 1 cannon on the 3rd, if even that. And Storm, obviously, nowhere on the radar whatsoever, but cannons. Getting in there before the cannons are up, no Zealots warped in, means the Zerglings are actually really good tanks. Classic gets taken down in game 1. Nice attack for Dark. Changes up his Chadray Annihilator here. Either way, great win for Dark. Goes back to his old school tricks, but with a modern twist of using the Overlord drops. Well played. All right, guys, nice win for Dark there in game 1. It was pretty crisp, the Ling Queen timing. I think the concern was the Oracle scouting at the 3rd. I think that was really good. If you scout around 4.5 to 5 minutes, check the drone count on Dark's 3rd. It's the main indicator of that sort of attack. So I think it was the 2nd Oracle dive there where Classic kind of got information on exactly what was happening. Really well done by him to see that. But he panicked a little bit. You got to realize with Queen Zergling, it seems like such a scary army, but it needs surface area. So realistically, like if the same thing happens this game, right? You got some Stalker Sentry here hidden behind a pylon in the Nexus. You can't move them in the open or they'll get surrounded. They need to be able to hold position there with some batteries or cannons healing them. And then you warp in Stalker Sentry on the natural, use force fields to hold the choke point. But because he can drop queens across, a lot of the times we panic and freak out. Remember, queens don't do a lot of damage. You can A-move them with probes if you really need extra damage, because the queens aren't going to kill the probes that fast and you just need to survive. But also your oracles can just rotate, right? You can focus all your warp-ins there. And I do think having a cannon on the natural, he built a battery there. I think a cannon there, a battery there is even better, because the cannon's just, when you look at the whole defense of Protoss in that situation, the whole problem you have is you just need to drag the fight out a lot and deny surface area for the Ling surrounds, because queens have low damage but high tankiness, and Zerglings have very fragile but super high damage if they can get access to your unit. So the whole goal of Protoss is limit surface area and buy time, because your Stalkers and Sentries are very low DPS. They're going to take forever to kill the enemy units. If you get a few cannons up, it creates these no-go zones where the Ling Queen just cannot engage, because every second they're in range of a cannon, it's like 4 Stalkers in terms of damage output. That might sound a bit exaggeratory, but you got to realize that the cannon, it's not going to be overkilling as much as the Stalkers. You know, 2 shots times 20, it's 40 damage against a 35 hit point Zergling plus 1 hit point of regen. So basically you're only wasting about 10% of your DPS in overkill. Whereas if you have 3 Stalkers shooters Zerglings, that's 3 times 13. They're wasting only 2 damage. Never mind, I'm not good with numbers. No, I mean, the problem with the Stalkers is you're often going to have 3 or 4 Stalkers shooting an already damaged Zergling, right? That's where it's a little bit problematic. And the fact that each Stalker, in terms of its damage output, obviously shooting so much slower than the cannon while costing only 25 less minerals. Oh, he doesn't get the pylon down. Classic, goes for a tricky block, does not get it. Alright, guys, we got a Adept up there. Nexus getting double chronoed. So passive play. Single Adept goes across. Tries to deny creep tumors potentially, but otherwise just chills out. You can see the second Adept does come forwards, but I don't think he chronoed that. Oracle, that's where the chrono goes down. So already 3 or 4 chronos on probes, and then just chronoing oracles and potentially energy refilling them. I think what we're going to be looking at in this game is Classic probably just says, let's just get to my game plan. Let's not die to the random attack from Dark. Now, Dark could change things up. He does like to skip roaches, play straight to Hydraling. I might even see him go fast Lurker, like a Ling Lurker style. It's really good to mix into a series against a guy like Classic, who's going to be even more kind of careful and paranoid, working his way up to Stalker Storm. Oh, dude, Ling's moving out is a bad idea for Dark. Dark, what are we doing, man? He moves across with all of his lings. The Adept's going to get 3 drones. Oracle's going to join in and get another drone or 2 here. Not the best micro on the Oracle. Does take a lot of damage, actually. 5 drones do go down. Now, the lings are there. I like that Classic doesn't build a 3rd. Builds a pylon, takes 2 gases, realizing I can't defend that 3rd right now. I need to wait for this Oracle to be there. And now, with the Oracle out, I can protect the 3rd base. He also, going for such a fast 4 gas before 3rd, it does open up the opportunity to go, of course, something like the 2nd Stargate Fleet Beacon build, the early Tempest Rush. Oh, 1 Oracle could turn on its laser, but with 3 Adepts there, he realizes that's not enough Zerglings. I don't need to waste energy. Great play for Classic. Twilight Council goes down in the back of the main. Lings run in. Looks like, oh, dude, his wall was open. Oracle in the natural. Already a couple probes going down. Main base looks like an Oracle there. Great split on the Oracles for Classic. That was very impressive, actually. And you can see these Zerglings are going to all get blasted. Units lost tab in favor of Classic. We've got +1 melee for Dark. Spores now going down. Very big delay on the Spores. That is because he's playing the Polish Gambit a lot recently. Guys, he's only got 11 Zerglings. There's 5 Adepts coming here. 3 Oracles as well. That's a problem. Because he does not have enough Zerglings to surround these Adepts. He's only got 5 Queens against 3 Oracles. These Adepts and Oracles combined could definitely cause some issues for him. These Oracles are going to want to loop around. They're going to want to loop around. The Queen's Intercept, though, Classic, gets caught out. Takes a bit of damage on those Oracles. Does get rid of a Creep Tumor. Gets rid of 2-3 Creep Tumors. I mean, he's doing good passive pressure. Like, he's not throwing his units away, just being a nuisance. I think the window of catching Dark with only 10 Zerglings, 11 Zerglings is gone now. Oracle's going to dance backwards, and he doesn't overcommit. He just says, yeah, it's enough. It's only 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4. Oh, wow. Okay, 6 gate blink. Forge is very delayed, but I do foresee a blink attack in the near future. Sentry in the wall off, going to gather some energy, get some hallucination scouting later on. One thing I noticed is Classic never really gets crazy damage with his Adept Oracle, right? I mean, that's one thing where, like, oh, snipes the drone trying to take the forward 4th. This is the worst base on this map. Dark's going to take it because he likes trash. Okay, now he's going to change his mind and take an actual good, I guess, 5th base. 4th base is down here on this left side. Obviously, this base, only a single gas, and it's blocked by minerals, and there's only 6 mineral patches, so it's the garbage base. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it fits positionally with your play. Oh, Classic's going to take it as well. Gosh. Dude, people have got to stop hurting me by taking this base. It's such a bad base, man. It's so bad. I think Classic wants to push through the middle, so it's kind of on his push path. It'll keep him safe. Yeah, long term, it really does lose you a lot. Pro gamers get very addicted to purple gas. It does give you a temporary boost, but long term, not as powerful. If you, I mean, at least if you take it as your 4th, it's kind of fine, right? If you take it as your 3rd, I think that's early on in this map pool where people were really making a huge misstep because the economic fall off was really bad. Storm +1 on the way. Like I was saying, I thought Dark could play fast Lurkers this game and counter a very cautious Stalker Storm style problem. He's not. He's going just massling Hydra. Now, recently we've seen mass Zergling, no Banelings as the counter to Protoss, but you need very good micro to dodge all the Psy Storms. We'll see if he can pull it off. Oracle's coming in. They're going to get amazing value, and I think cancelling this Nexus is not worth this many Zerglings for Dark. Beautiful last second cancel there. Dark has lost 58 Zerglings. Now, Classic does kind of panic and misplaces the Nexus when he puts it back down. But I think Dark now building 15 drones, takes another gas, drops an Infestation and a Lurker. And what is... Oh, my lord. This is bad for Dark, guys. If you want to rush Hive, you'll often see Cyril starting his Hive at 6 minutes. It's 8 minutes. We don't even have our Infestation halfway done. This is not even plan B. This is plan C. This is, okay, I denied a base, but I threw away a lot of Zerglings. I have no Banelings. I have no Roach Tech. I've just got Hydras and Zerglings. What am I going to do now? Well, Dark says, I'll make 100 drones, and then hopefully we can just play Lurkers. But he's so late to get to the Lurker Tech, which means he's got 100 drones. He's got a smaller army of Hydraling against Stalker Storm. Stalker Storm may not be the best army to push into an opponent, but Classic absolutely can kill him right now. Dark cannot fight this. He needs to make some magic happen. Luckily, he's on 6 bases, so he can give this one up. But dude, 98 drones is insane. I like the patience on dropping the first Storm. Dark walks straight back into it. Getting flanked a little bit. Hydra's on the backside. Stasis Trap does get focused down. Storms, Force Field, beautiful all over that Queen Hydra line. Stalker's just hammering. Dark does not have the numbers here, and his +1 range and muscular augment's going to be kicking in a few seconds too late. One of the High Templar does get focused down. The Stalkers are doing A-okay, and I wouldn't mind some Zealot Warpins as well, just to add some anti-Zergling firepower, as you know that's all he's going to be reinforcing with. Dark with a bit of a mishmash game plan here. Looked like he was thinking about doing mass Hydraling off 70 drones, threw away about 40 Zerglings killing a Nexus, and then realized, well, this isn't going to work, changed his plan, but it was too late. It was not something that he kind of had planned ahead of time, and Classic goes for a pretty generic pressure with Stalker Storm and finds Dark woefully underprepared. LMAO, you can trigger traps with changelings? I think only if they haven't transformed. If they've seen an enemy unit and transformed, then no. Nice, storms coming down. Ooh, good storms. Stalker's holding that choke point so well. So much storm left over. Transfuses on the Hydras. A desperate effort for Dark to hold the line. But he's been a bit too sloppy with that one. And I think you can just kind of look at that moment when those Lings went in on the Nexus and go, oh, you know, getting a base is okay, but like, look at what's his setup at this point? I'm going 6 bases. He starts to drone even as the Lings go across the map, but where's the infestation pit? If you want to play a longer game, that infestation pit should have been down a while ago. And I mean, the fact that he's only playing 5 gas and he's not even fully mining this gas in the main, that's weird. Like, it really is. He's set up for a mass Zergling style. He's not set up for Hive at all. Which is why when he makes that decision, you're like, oh, gases lurk at an infestation pit. Quick, 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 I need gas. It's too late for it, though. He's taking 5 gases at once at almost 8 minutes. Great play by Classic. Alright. Game 3. Dark might want to be a bit more decisive in this one. And we'll see what the hell goes on. Classic in the top right side of the map as well. Going to be going for the wall off on Frostline. Now, I imagine Dark throws the kitchen sink at Classic, but like I said, I would have loved to see either one of those styles that I talked about at the start of that last game from Dark. Either go 70 drones, mass Hydraling, and just swarm and just go for that. Like, hey, I went straight to Hydras, now I'm just going to try and overwhelm you. It's a pretty good style. Or go straight for Lurkers, but he kind of went the half and half, and it felt like 5 gas, you can't really... I mean, you could go Hydraling off 5 gas. You're going to have pretty much unlimited Zerglings. You can do it with mass hatchery and have a pretty good transition behind it, but you've got to go commit to an attack and kind of break up the Protoss army before all the pieces get together. Because if you let him just build Storm and Stalkers, 4th base, all that stuff, it's not going to go well, and definitely didn't work out for Dark in the last game. I'm sure he's going to change things up this time around. I wouldn't be super surprised to see one of his old sneaky Baneling busts. I mean, it's not as... Is that maybe one of the builds we don't see as much, actually? Maybe he's taken that out of the rotation because of all the stasis traps and the mass Oracle energy. Because it used to be, he'd wait for your Oracles to be on his side of the map, and then bam! Banelings would kind of swarm in from down here, blow up the unit in the wall, and he'd be into your main in the natural. And he'd just be so good at sneaking those Lings across the map, morphing the Banelings in secret, it would really throw you off. Now, Classic was trying really hard to deny one of the less efficient mineral patches. Bit odd to see. And he does make a small mistake, accidentally mines 5 minerals there. Dark, not really too concerned. Dark doesn't usually pay a lot of attention to this sort of harassment. Other players get stressed out by it. Dark doesn't really care if he loses 5 minerals, let alone 50 minerals. It just doesn't change his rhythm. So many players, I feel like, are so much more refined than Dark with their build orders because everything's planned ahead of time and optimized, and it allows them to do things that Dark, like, they're just ahead of him, they're hitting sharper timings, they're way further ahead. But it feels like because Dark never does that, he's just more in tune in the moment, and the more steps there are with interaction messes up the in quotation marks, standard situation, he just gets better at reading the play. Whereas the players who are like, hey, if the game goes super standard, I know exactly when to do this and that, they're the players who sometimes under pressure do make a few more mistakes than him, or they miss the potential win conditions, the moments where they really could blossom their control of the game and do very well. Now, very quick third pylon in this game for Classic. I say third pylon, sorry, no, there's no pylon in the main, never mind. Second pylon here, Stargate hidden behind the natural. Stalker's going to come out and on this little Tetris piece, try and get rid of that Overlord before it hides too much. Yep, not shading in. I don't think Dark saw the Overlord. Even though he saw the Stalker, sorry. Even though he may have had vision of it for a second there. I miss the old days. Idra would already have been all chatting, seeing that probe in his mineral patch. Oh, yeah. He'd be like, wow, Protoss player, you're so good clicking your probe. This game is fair. Yeah. Always felt like Artos just had a special camaraderie with Idra. He's like, this guy is me. We both have the same angry engine for motivation. Ling's looking to deny a base. Nothing in the wall. Stalker gets there just in time. Oh, Adept popping on the outside's a bit of a mistake. Only gets one hit off before it goes down. That Adept positions itself very nicely, though, as the Oracle goes into the main. Gets a drone. Only one drone. Does take a lot of damage. This is what I'm talking about, where Classic, it never feels like he gets a big advantage with the Oracle Adept outside of the game, right? And maybe that's because he's just not as fast and you know, raw speed, multitasking talented as like the Hero or Max Packs, who are both... Sometimes they just beat Dark in the early game. Classic never has that advantage. Never has that ability to run away with the early game. Has to play a bit more like Showtime. Showtime known for having very close series with Dark over the years, but he tends to come out the loser. Not sure what Classic's record is with Dark, though. He's definitely beat him a bunch. But not sure what it is recently. 5-gate, 6-gate Twilight Council. Is this Glaive Adepts? It kind of feels like it's the delayed Glaives, but I think it's just going to be Blink. It just seems a bit crazy to go Glaive starting so late. Yeah. Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes just before then is when Blink starts up. Oracle's here. Don't want to waste their energy just yet. Just chilling, just following. That Oracle comes in, gets deflected. Now, keep in mind, guys, no Roach Horn. Dark does not believe in the power of the Roach, which, you know, it could be very wise. Not building an inefficient unit. Try to get straight to the Hydras. But if he was getting hit by Glaive Adepts, he'd have a very hard time defending him. Oh, Classic loses an Oracle as well. 4th base goes down super fast. It's very greedy, the way Dark does this opening. Hydra Den goes up in that main base, 5.5 minutes, which means he's going to have his first Hydra upgrades finishing around 7 minutes, 7:45, 8 minutes, maybe just, let's say 8:20. He should have a Hydra Ling army that could really smash. And at that point, Classic's only going to have Stalkers. Now, I do think Classic's going to... Oh, I was about to say, I totally misread this. I thought Classic was going to lean into the 6-gate. He went 6-gate so early. I think Classic's making a strategic mistake that many players make first Dark, because Dark is so capable of all these crazy all-ins. We've played super fast 6-gate, thinking, well, if an attack comes, I'm ready. But then Dark doesn't go for the attack, and we don't use the gateways at all. Right? We've just made a few... We haven't even made 6 units. We've got 6 Stalkers. That's all we've got on the map. And now you decide to go, okay, I'll make Storm, I'll make +1. I'll probe up and take gases on my 3rd. But you're doing this after wasting a lot of investment in gateways that you're not using. And the thing is, I think sometimes the best way to play against Dark is, yes, play safe, but play safe through your own aggression. Do a forward 6-gate blink pressure, commit pretty hard to it, and then you can macro behind it. Don't overcommit. Don't throw your army into the meat grinder, because Dark's so good at defending. But, you know, apply the heavy pressure, get some damage, force a big response, whereas it feels like Classic is almost too careful, a bit too tentative. He's worried right now about what Dark's going to bring out next. And Dark, as we can see, it's that 70 drone mass Hydra Ling that I was talking about that he didn't end up committing to. He's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gases. Infestation Pit Lurker then goes down. Once again, really slow on the Infestation Pit. Not a big fan of how delayed it is. It's much better than the previous game, almost a minute faster. But it's still not optimal in that you're going to want to find something with your Hydraling before that moment, and that's why he is moving forward now. Once again, he does go Groove Spines before Muscular Augments because he wants the defensive advantage against forward blink pressures, but it does mean that his movement speed very late, and it's hard to get across the map. I think if he can at least deny the 4th while going for his own hive, the second that Infestation Pit finishes, he should be okay, but he's going to attack, which means he might be distracted. No hive starting. Bunch of Zerglings and Hydras get caught by the first Stasis Trap. Stalkers are out of position, which means there's no way to hold this. Storm coming up here as well. I think on 3 base, Classic should easily hold. He's going to immediately rebuild it, though. Oh, he blinks to the left. Does get a few decent Storms on the Lings, as well as one on the Hydras. Is blinking forward here a bit too crazy a choice, though? Oh, Classic doesn't have that many Stalkers. He's going to have to try and blink back some of the weak ones. Archon's morphing from the High Templar. The Hydra Ling getting a shockingly good engagement. It's a double cancel on the 4th. and cleaning up the entire army. And like I said, a 70 drone Hydra Link timing has a lot of efficacy. You know what's crazy? Dark doesn't even commit to it, right? He builds a lot of Hydra Link, but he drones behind it. He forgets to start his hive. It finally does go down. I think even he was shocked by how much damage he was finding there. Chat says it wasn't even a cancel on the Nexus the second time. Oh, wow, it wasn't. It's an extra. I thought he would have got the 300 minerals back, but that hurts. Classic in big trouble right now. And the mass Zergling. This is the modern ZvP adjustment is Zergs going heavy on the Zerglings and just spreading and dodging the storms and using their extreme mobility. Because given enough time, the Protoss has unlimited storms and stutter step and falling behind batteries, but Lings are fast. Best for setting off stasis traps as well if you send a few in ahead, which he keeps forgetting to do. But the stasis trap, a bit far out of position on the south. Cannons and batteries coming up on the third or fourth base, I should say. 5 Hydras get frozen by a stasis trap. Massive spready for Dark as he comes in with Lair Tech Lurkers. Wow, 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 wow. He's inching his Lair Tech Lurkers forward. Ling Hydra comes up here. Storm's going to be going down. Lots of Hydra Ling up top. Yes, you're going to break through those Lurkers down the bottom, but they were a distraction. Dark uses his Lair Tech Lurkers to get an overreaction. Classic's thinking these are going to become range upgrade Lurkers any moment. They were never going to become range upgrade Lurkers. It's Dark. The man's a crazy lad. He gets another kill on the fourth base, gets a few more probes, and he keeps Classic's army small. Classic desperately trying to rebuild that fourth. Lurker range is so very delayed in this game, but it's fine because Dark's found good damage. He's got Frenzy for the Hydras, aka Nanomuscular Swell, range, Overlord Speed, +3 range as well. I'd like to see a second Evo with melee upgrades and then Carapace upgrades when this is done, just to round out Dark's long-term style. But of course, the more important thing is commit to the Lurkers and go attack with range. If he can just attack the south, big wedge of Lurkers, start busting these cannons from here, and then send half of his army up north, I think it's very hard for Classic to bust either of those positions. Now, the other option is just keep engaging the north. There's not as much cannon battery up there. Trying to rebuild it. That cannon depowered. Here we go, yeah. Hitting this base because it's a new angle is good. And Classic, so blind on this map. He's lost his oracles. He doesn't know where the enemy army is. Dark's going to pull back for it, which I don't think he needs to. I think Dark is massively ahead in this game, and pulling back here is giving Classic a bit of time. As long as Classic can extricate himself from this situation, which he's going to do very wisely, as he realizes, hey, this army is down here. Dark is going to fire. And Classic needs to split his army. He needs to grab half of his army, go over here, and half of his army go over here. And if he does that right now, I think he can transition into Immortal Storm, Tempest, Mothership, and Force late game. But he has to split his army half and half right now. Classic's playing as if we're at 8 minutes in the game, we're at 11 minutes. Dark's been maxed for a little while. You need to get out in front of him. A few Zealots, it's a decent counterattack, but it's not going to do that much. Classic keeping his whole army together. He's worried about getting his army jumped on. I guess that's a fair enough worry. That's usually how Zerg beats Protoss, is catching the army out. Killing the economy usually just a means to an end. The High Templar, Immortal Archon getting kind of split up there. Bit of an awkward situation. Classic doesn't have an Oracle. Guys, he does not have an Oracle. He doesn't have a way of clearing these Lurkers. He has to give this base up. His best bet here is to give this base up. I do not think he can clear this out. He's got one Observer, but if that Observer gets sniped, he's got no other detection. Zealots get eradicated by the Lurkers on the right side. Classic supply very low. He does kill a few drones on the left, but it's his main army that matters. And these Lurkers have already chewed through all of his Archons and a few of his Immortals. Nidus Worm's going up in the main. There's already an evacuation Nidus here. Could be used just to reposition into that main base. Classic, he's got the pressure on him. And I really would have loved to see Classic with that pre-split army. Half the army could have slowed down the push. Half the army could have been counter-pushing. That would have been very hard for Dark to respond to. Would have allowed Classic to buy time for the Tempests. Now, the Zealot Warp-In did clean up the Nidus in the main base. Storm does defend the Immortal. It dies. But the Zerglings also going down at the same time. Bottom left side, Hydra's coming in, Nanomuscular Swell. The Immortal High Templar caught in the middle of the map. Oh no, Classic! He's getting overrun! He's using Storms to buy himself a few seconds, but of course the Swell comes in, the Immortal goes down, the Archons and the High Templar do get out of there. Tempest with no way of detecting those Lurkers, and you can see the way Dark, his enigmatic nature. Is he going to go all in? Is he going to macro? Is he going to do a bit of this, a bit of that? It's hard for Classic to get a read on Dark in this series. And that's why he looked a little paranoid and overly defensive here in the final game. And you can see Dark, the moment you're paranoid against him, he senses it, he'll take advantage. Really nice game 3 for Dark. It's a bit of a mix, right? Am I going Hydra Link? Kind of. I've had a greedy start. I skipped Roaches, I skipped Banelings. You didn't punish with Glaive Adepts, and if you don't punish me with Glaive Adepts, I will get away with this build. And I do think 4-gate Glaives might be one of the best anti-dark openings in the book, because he's not opened Roaches in 3 months. And I'm surprised people aren't just going 4-gate Blinks after double Oracle every game, because it's not an all-in build. It's going to force a massive response, and then you can macro from there. So that's Pig's hot tip for any pro gamer who's got to prepare for a series with Dark, guys. I don't know, man. I feel like 4-gate Glaive Adept is going to be finding a weak spot about that 6-minute mark, because I do think it's a very nice play for Dark, but it is something where he's pretty consistently been skipping that Roach Horn. Now, don't get me wrong, Dark has a Spidey sense, so maybe he gets back into it. But it's 6 minutes in this game. What's he got? 22 Zerglings, 6 Queens. His first Hydra's just starting. 14 Glaive Adepts arriving right now would be very hard to deal with. And I think it's something players are going to have to start taking advantage of. Because, yeah, I don't think the Hydranens... I mean, sometimes you can defend Glaive Adepts with Hydras, but you really need to have rushed for like a 50 drone Hydra all in. I think if you go like 50, 55 drones at most, Hydraling, you can actually defend Glaive Adept after Oracle. But that's like a super committed build. I also feel like there was a big delay on some of his tech starting. Like, I think with this build, you want to immediately build your Hydra Den at 520. It's probably only 10 seconds, but 10 seconds adds up. It's about 7-8 seconds delayed, the Hydra Den. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got nothing to build but Zerglings against, whether it be Glaive Adepts or whatever else, Hydra's actually become a much better unit, even without having any upgrades on them. Nonetheless, I do think Classic, the big misplay potentially, would be going 6-gate, delaying the Forge, delaying Storm, maybe even delaying probing this third up, and then not really getting aggressive with it. Would it have worked? Probably not into Dark's build. But in that case, do we really need to play 6-gate blind? Paranoid? I think 4-gate should be enough. But after game 1, I think Classic was a little paranoid. So maybe needs to work on his defense of those like Queen Ling all-ins so that he can defend this stuff and basically more comfortably and confidently play a greedier build himself. Either way, great games from both sides. Dark goes on to the grand finals. GG, well played.